said, Grandma? She's like, yeah. Tell me about your childhood. So she talked about it, and I was just like, oh, I was blown away. She's done a lot.
For Vada Hoof, those stories aren't history. They're her family's story. And now she's passing on knowledge and helping ensure elders have a place where their stories are heard and their experiences are understood at the Elders Drop-In Center in Calgary.
People that show up here the first time, they're blown away.
She helps lead activities while encouraging elders to share their own experiences and wisdom. In this place, you'll find everything from games, moccasin making lessons, and lots of laughs.
I always refer to the space as the exhale. You walk in and you just go, and that moment of just being present, being able to leave things at the door, and having a moment where you can relax, be around people like you that understand you, that you don't necessarily have to explain, or that are going to look at you a certain way because you tell a story or share something from your past, where you can laugh and you can have fun.
And then you keep inviting people, come back, come and enjoy our feast or our bingo time, or we're doing a craft, or come and enjoy. Yeah. I lost my mom when I was about 18 months old. So my grandma took me in, and she decided to move her whole family to Calgary because she knew there was more opportunity. She made sure I made, beading, sewing, a lot of stuff. She's taught me a lot of stuff. My grandma was raised in the residential school, right? So, she used to keep telling me in her process, that's what the only thing they taught her, right? Was how to sew, how to clean, right? And so when she did come out of residential school, that was the main thing. She had to make sure she had a really nice home. She had to make sure that, whatever needs to get sewn, because, she had 9 kids, right? She had to make sure that they were clothed, right? She started introducing me into more or less sun dances, being part of all night smokes, being part of powwows, being part of everything that, as being an Indigenous person, that, I'm able to attend, right? Being part of, some certain bundle openings, seeing what, being a witness to all of these beautiful, things that was available for me. And so she made sure that I was part of it. Like, even though she started residential school when she was about 5, but then, summertime they get to go home, they get to spend time with their families. And, I think the main thing that she loved the most was being part of the Sundance. And every end of July, it goes for about 10 days. And she would camp there, and she would stay there the whole time. And so she used to tell me that her mother used to be part of the Buffalo Women's Society, and then her dad used to be part of the Horn Society. And so yeah, it was there, but I think within the whole process, she kind of kept it back. I think it was part of my education process because I was at the University of Lethbridge. But one of my projects was to do an interview with either an elder or with one of the elders on the reserve, right? So I decided, well, I'm going to interview my grandma. So we sat there, we set up my iPad and that, and I said, Grandma? She's like, yeah. Tell me about your childhood. So she talked about it, and I was just like, oh, I was blown away. She's done a lot. Yeah, yeah.
What stood out from that?
I think it was being with her parents on how they did things together, learning that her dad, Joseph, he was a gardener, so he made sure that he planted a lot of stuff. And when winter would come, he had all this food for his family. And then you have extended relatives. They knew that he had food, so, and he wasn't, stingy about his food. He shared his food. So, yeah, it was just like sharing and, being with family and we're starting, I noticed that we're starting to, forget our visiting our neighbors or visiting family members or trying to, oh yeah, dad just lives over there. How come I don't visit him? But we have to get out there, talk to people and be part of your community. But anyhow, with grandma is that yeah, she and then she would talk about residential school. She would talk about she was the age of 5 when she had to go in. You know, um, the reason why she had to go in at the age of 5 is because the police showed up at her parents' home and said if you don't let her go to residential school, they're gonna put them in jail, right?
Your her parents would
Ye-
go in jail.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
and so parents, well, take my child then. I don't want to go to jail, right? And so yeah, and then because she only had a grade 6 education, right? The rest was all cleaning, feeding the nuns, feeding the priests, and then making sure that all the stairs were all cleaned, not with just a mop or a rag. It had to be a toothbrush, to get in the nooks and crannies and stuff like that.
Veda talks about how the Aboriginal Friendship Center came up with the programming at the Elders Drop-In Center.
And plus, we're asking too, what they would like, right? A lot of them, said, well, we love making ribbon skirts, ribbon shirts, moccasins. We share, you know, the meaning of ribbon skirts, where it came from, and how it's changed over the years. Um,
Do you find that there's seniors that don't know these things?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did that surprise you, or did you know that?
I kind of figured.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured. Um, I also give them the opportunity to share stories too. Like, do you guys have like any stories that pertain to their culture? Stories. Even just to hear their stories growing up, right? We give them that opportunity, and it's been good because it really opens up your eyes to about because some of them have been through residential school, some of them have run away from residential school, and just listening to it. We had one lady, she was a flight attendant, and she got to travel the world, and she was the first Native woman to do that. It's interesting to hear their story.
Do you see changes in them over?
Oh, they're so happy. I feel that they've been seen. You know, we hear stories how, sometimes they're at home, they're by themselves, they have nowhere to go. And when they get here, it feels like, I'm I'm being seen. Everybody always says hi to me. And that makes us feel good too, because, if someone's happy, you're happy too, right? Yeah. People that show up here the first time, they're blown away,
Yeah.
right? And then you keep inviting people, come back, come and enjoy our feast or bingo time or, we're doing a craft, or come and enjoy. Yeah, it's a safe space, and there's no judgment. We accept whoever, right? And we accept the young ones come to bingo. We'll have young ones here, 17-year-olds. There's even a 15-year-old that comes here too, right? It's just being accepted,
Yeah.
feeling like I said, it's a safe space, and why not learn and process too, right? Because we have Ethel, she's our elder,
Yeah.
and we ask her, well, what does this word mean, Blackfoot, right? Because she's a very fluent Blackfoot speaker,
Okay, cool.
and so she'll tell us, and then
Yeah.
we'll keep saying it over and over,
Yeah.
making sure we know it, and then she'll come back. Do you remember what I said?
Yeah.
No.
Basically, it was this idea that we have youth centers, we have, schools for training adults and things like that, but there wasn't really a permanent seniors community space or support system that we had for that was Indigenous based. There's sort of smaller programs around, but nothing that a permanent, solid fixture. So basically, through that conversation and development, and then the organic benefit of what we went through, we've made this space, which was basically, again, as far as we know, is the first urban Indigenous permanent facility out there. There's other programs, but they're shared spaces, so they might only run for 3 or 4 hours, or just Monday to Friday. But this space is permanently
For elders specifically.
for elders, yeah, and urban Indigenous. But again, we are many nations, one family. That's AFCC's logo, and with that, and what that means is that everyone's allowed to through the front door. We want allies walking through the door. We don't check status cards. This is a space of community and learning, and part of truth and reconciliation is that we have to work together, and we have to be part of things in a larger picture. And this space is one of the key foundations of AFCC's mission in that. And yeah, it's just one of those blessings that the community has got behind us. They've told us what we need, and we're willing to change with them and do everything that we need to. So
And you said it's your baby.
yeah.
Talk about its growth. Like, where did it come and where it's at right now?
Yeah, so we're coming up to 3 years open to the public, which is an amazing blessing for it. But it is a program that we originally was going to kind of be more of an outreach. It was going to be outreach for seniors, come in, get some support, have a coffee, and kind of go on your way. The space, as we were developing it, the people that first started coming through, it wasn't what the community wanted. It wasn't what they were after. What they really wanted was a place where they could come and they could just be. They could be present in the way that they wanted to be present, that they could come in, chat, be around other people, not be alone. One of the key fundamental parts of the program from day one has always been reducing social isolation. And urban Indigenous specifically, there's a huge percentage of urban Indigenous that are isolated, be it from multiple factors, be it from, family members not being present, not being on the reserve, feeling like they don't fit into either community. They're not an urban person, but they're also not in reserve. And that isolation that happens. Also, again, we know about the traumas that have happened through, the residential school survivors, the Scoop 66, all those sort of things that have happened have created sort of these walls around people. And what that does is it doesn't allow them to experience and share and heal. And so something like this space, why it's so important is it allows them to come in as they are with no expectations. They walk through the front door and they just get to be. I always refer to the space as the exhale. You walk in and you just go, and that moment of just being present, being able to leave things at the door, and having a moment where you can relax, be around people like you that understand you, that you don't necessarily have to explain, or that are going to look at you a certain way because you tell a story or share something from your past, where you can laugh and you can have fun, you can cry if you want. You also have access to traditional medicines, smudging, prayer. It's basically, I would say, what a lot of people refer to as things that have saved their lives. It basically allowed them to be reborn in the way that they want to live. And I use that in the sense that that's the words that they've told me, not what I see. Those are their words. And it took 3 years of us really taking the time to organically change our programs, adjust them, develop them through word of mouth, through having our team. I have an amazing elder on staff. I have an amazing knowledge keeper on staff. I have an amazing youth on staff. So we have this amazing collective of voices of 3 amazing Indigenous women that are the heart and soul of this space, that I just get to build a stage and they do all of the amazing stuff. I have no credit in that part for it. But what they do and how they interact with the seniors and our conversations with them have created this magical space.
So what was it that you landed on? Like you said, at the time when it was first set up, it wasn't really what people wanted. So what did you do to change, to adapt to what they wanted?
Listen. Like it sounds really simplified, but we listened. And when you have people that have been told for so long that their voices don't matter, that they don't belong, they don't really share much. So when they do say things, you have to really listen, and you have to sort of see what's behind what they're really saying. It's not just the taking things at face value. One of the things is when we first started, we did these surveys and they would all check off, they wanted ceremony and language classes, and they didn't want anything fun. They didn't want game day. It was all really serious traditional conversations. And it was funny, as we would progress, the events were okay, but they weren't really well received in the same way that we would assume. Like, everyone's checking this off. Why is not everyone coming? And then I realized, and through conversation, of going, well, how come you didn't come to this? And why was this not something you're interested in? We realized that, again, they weren't given the freedom of a voice and they weren't given choice. So they weren't allowed, they felt they didn't have the right to say, well, it'd be really nice if we could just come in here and laugh and have a games day. Or, well, it'd be nice if we maybe had a bingo day, and they were afraid to say those things because funding was always dictated for Indigenous people only for Indigenous culture and really strict Indigenous culture, and not the concept of they're human beings that need to have friends and they need to have laughter and space. And we know that when you feel safe, you share. And when you share, you can heal. And so that conversation through that of going, let's figure out what's really happening and what they're really saying. And again, we still have traditional moments, but we have a more well-rounded event, and it's because that's what they told us they wanted. Part of being urban Indigenous means you're in both worlds. It's not just one or the other. And in that conversation, you have to include all aspects of that. And so when we talked about how we changed, is we just listened. We asked questions, and we weren't afraid to change. Nothing was a failure that we did. Everything was okay. That was, today was great, but that great tomorrow now is good. And now how do we get back to great? And every day we changed, and every day we started, I always say our very first bingo, we had 11 people come. We were like, oh my God, this is crazy. We have 11 people showed up. This is awesome. And then our last bingo that just happened, we broke a site record of 74 people showing up. And that's in under 2 years, that changeover. Because we listened and we presented it in a way that they wanted, which I like to refer to our bingos as, little kid birthday bingo, where about half of them are playing, the other half are having fun and snacking and talking to their friends and laughing. And that's what real happiness is where you're not having to follow all the rules. You get to be how you want to be. If you want to talk, you can talk. The space, what a lot of people have said is it gives back choice. choice that was removed from them. They weren't allowed to have these conversations. They weren't allowed to say things. They weren't allowed to be in places. I remember when I started, I got like the space got, I think probably like 20 like Christmas card thank you cards. And almost every single one of them, they thanked us for saying hi to them when we walked in. That was what we were up against, that they weren't even said hello when they walked into buildings, that they weren't ever made to feel welcome. So when you talk about an importance of a space and why a space is so important, that safe space, a safe space is not something that they come in and it's like, there's no violence. That's part of it. But safe space is that they're seen and they're heard and they get to just be. And when you understand what that means and you see that, and the fact is, like I said, I remember when I got those cards, I was like, nope, I will never get another thank you for that. That needs to be the bare minimum, not the highest of compliments. And now that it's expected when we walk in that they get, how are you doing? We know them by name. What can I grab you to drink? Grab a seat. We'll come talk to you in a second. All those conversations are just standard and they're expected now. And that is testament to the amazing team we have here, but also the amazing community members that allowed us to grow with them and gave us the grace to learn and, work with them and find these amazing moments. It's a hard thing for me. I came from years in the service industry. I was the university kid who worked retail and, became a manager and all those sort of fun things. And I couldn't fathom that we ask 15 and 16-year-olds who, let's be honest, most 15, 16-year-olds would rather look at their phone than look up at any person. The bare minimum for their job is they say hi to everyone as they walk through the door and can I help you? And you're telling me that these people don't even have the expectation of a bare minimum part-time employee in a shop. And that's when we talk about systematic racism. That's when we talk about, truth and reconciliation and the conversation of where we all really have to be present. And, even for myself, I am a queer individual, so I understand aspects of discrimination, being told that I'm not right for years and years. But I have to acknowledge, I have white privilege, white male privilege at the best of it. I don't get followed when I walk into a shop. I get said hi to when I walk into places. And part of my journey with this space and why I call it my baby is I already had a seat at the table. So if I'm going to be an ally and I'm going to participate here then let me use this privilege. Let me put those elbows up. Let me go, oh, perfect. I have 7 other people here and here's their seat and here's their seat. And now we're all going to be here. Okay. And you're going to listen to me because I'm a white male. Perfect. I'm going to use that and I'm going to use it in the best way possible. And I'm going to share these stories and I'm going to be a champion for them until they're ready to use their voices. And now, like I said, 3 years in, we're starting to really outsource and share our success stories because this is something that needs to be done in other communities. We need to do this in other areas and other sources, not just Indigenous. There's a lot, unfortunately, the world is full of hate right now. And we need to start highlighting the good things, the love, the community, the fact that we're all human and we're unique and special, but we're all the same. And we now have these amazing seniors, elders, knowledge keepers that they're at a point where they want to start sharing their stories and they're ready to use their voices. And now I built the stage. I get to walk away and I get to say, here you go. You're at the table. Take over. And it's really exciting. That's, one of the coolest things about working this. And I had said to you off camera of the job I didn't know I needed and the lessons I didn't know I needed to learn. That is a key foundation of that comment of I didn't realize how important it was for me to make other people successful. And by that, I mean, give opportunity. You can't change privilege, but you can use privilege. Yeah. And it's a hard lesson to learn, because privilege does not mean your life is perfect, that everything's great, but it does give you a step into certain areas. And it is a responsibility of allies to bear the weight in those moments because I have a friend who's a professor at Mount Royal and she's an incredibly smart woman and she uses the vision of a pyramid. At the top, we have the white male.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's white female and cis, black males, and we kind of go down this system all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And at the bottom, you have these like trans, indigenous, mixed, cultural immigration people that have everything against them. They're tired. They've been holding everyone up. It is not their responsibility to fight anymore. It is our responsibility at the top where we're well rested. It is our job to take over those fights and to make space and clear the table and say, come have a seat. And I'm on my soapbox right now, so I apologize.
It's
but
brilliant.
It's really important. And I don't think there's a conversation right now where the importance of what allyship means. And I don't think there's the same conversation of then what is the role of the people that you're creating allyship for? What are their roles? Their role isn't to fight anymore. They're tired. They're surviving. We need to change that survival into thriving, right? And that we do by creating spaces such as this space, creating opportunities, creating moments that if they choose to speak, they can. It is a choice. Like I say, I talk about it a lot is, we work really hard to give back people's voices, but their voices is their power and they have the right not to use it. It is not their job that every time they want an Indigenous voice in a committee, they have to go in and tell their story, but it's expected because they're like, oh, well, we need a checklist. And that's not right. And that's like when I speak through the Indigenous voice, I'm regurgitating stories and knowledge that was shared to me. These are not my thoughts. I'm a conduit for that. And I'm blessed that I was able to learn those lessons. And, I think every person has an understanding of that grandpa or grandma figure that taught them something. And, that lesson you didn't know you needed to know until you happened to be there. That's part of this. And it's part of that I have roomfuls of grandmas and grandpas teaching me every single day, like it or not.
Yeah.
There are sometimes I'm just like, okay, we don't need another lesson today, but I get them, and I'm honored and I'm blessed with that. And every day I get to say, okay, tell me more, and then I get to share some of my stories with them, and they then take that and reformulate it and give it back to me in a whole new way, and it's great.
What stands out about what you've learned here?
Personally, I would say is that the acknowledgement of my privilege, but in a bigger picture is that at the end of the day, people want to be people. We're community-based animals. We need to be around community. We need to be around people. And when we create through society all these barriers and all these fears, oh, I can't go there, I don't know anyone, or a true safe space is when you can walk in and you don't have to know everyone, because it's like Cheers. I'm old enough to reference Cheers and I'm going to reference it, but where everyone knows your name, that was, I feel like, kind of the pinnacle of what everyone wants. Everyone wants to walk into a space and say, oh my gosh, you're back, how are you? That moment is like what I think really has created a foundation in me that I didn't realize was so important. That to go into a space and be seen and be heard, and how important that is. I think that's what I kind of walk away with on a daily basis now, is like, I go out of my way to make sure people are seen, and I acknowledge people, and I say, hi, how are you? And I take a moment and I actually wait for the answer. I don't plow through my day like I used to. So that lesson of just like, people are real, and you don't know a person's day until you ask. And it's important to have those moments. Again, safe spaces and a place like this, you see it. You see that they go out of their way to make an afternoon to talk to other people, to be heard, to be seen. And those are really important things.